Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for stopping by today. Today I have some fun new products to show you. These are a part of the Pretty Pink Posh July release. And I have a bunch of their new stamps and dies here, and I think they are so adorable. I'm going to be using this Summer Friends stamp and die set in the cards that I create today. I love the little girl with her unicorn floaty and that girl with her heart-shaped glasses. This also has some great sentiments and accessories in it as well, which I'll be using. Now, part of the great thing of this release is that these products coordinate so well together. This is the Fly a Kite stamp set and die set. It has all of these kites, but you see that cloud and those suns? Those coordinate so well with that Summer Friends, as well as this Fly Away Friends stamp set. I love the little hot air balloon and the cute little airplane there. It's kind of like that old-fashioned airplane. I think that would be so much fun to make a little boy birthday card with. And then I have some of the new dies as well, which are the scallop diamond tags and these stitch diamonds that have stitching on both sides of the cut line, which I think is great. So I'm going to be taking these images today. I've already colored them with the Copic markers. I've kind of taken them on the go with me. I will have all the Copic markers listed over at my blog, so be sure you check that out. But I stamped them in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I've colored them with Copic markers, and I'm going to show you 7 ways to step up your colored images on your cards today. So in order to cut these out, I need to go ahead and clip apart my coordinating dies. I'm just using my die snips to do that. And when I get all of these cut apart, I like to store them on these magnetic sheets in these stamp storage pockets from the Essentials by Ellen line. I'm going to go ahead and put my dies on the back side of my stamp set. So you'll see this little cardstock is just meant to kind of reinforce things. I have my dies there on that magnet sheet in the back. And then I can just slide my stamp set in the front and label those, and that's how I store my stamps. So now I'm going to take the coordinating dies. I'm going to hold them in place using some delicate surface painter's tape, and I'm going to run these through my die cut machine. Now I have to make several passes because I have several images here, and I'm going to be making a few different cards for you today, but I'm just using my regular die cut sandwich to cut those out. Now, in order to do a little bit of embossing with some of the coordinating dies from the Fly a Kite stamp set, I am going to switch over to my multi-purpose platform, and I'm going to open it to tab 1. I'm going to place down my bottom cutting plate and then the silicone tan mat by Spellbinders. And then I'm going to take my dies and position them on the top of this cardstock here with the blade side pressing down into the paper and down into that tan mat, and I'm going to finish my sandwich off with another cutting pad, and I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. And what you're going to see here is that instead of cutting, it's actually embossed these images or debossed the images depending on what side of the cardstock that you use. But now I have these raised cloud images on my card base that I can use to kind of enhance my scene a little bit. And that's just kind of another fun way to use your coordinating dies. Now, in order to make a little bit of sand for my gal to stand on, I'm using a Pretty Pink Posh stitched border die. It's just got a nice curve to it, and it adds a little bit of stitching, which I think is a fun detail. I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. I've used some Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and then I took it over to my trimmer and just trimmed that down. So you can see I've done this a few times. I'm making a few cards here. I have all of my debossed or embossed clouds. I have all of my stamped and colored images, and I'm just kind of arranging them into what I think would be a cute scene on the front of this card. And then I'm going to start adhering these all together. Now, I'm going to mark out where my sand mounds kind of hit because I did want to add a little bit of water behind this. So I'm just coloring a little bit of color behind those sand mounds using my BG10 Copic marker. And I'm going to go back over those and enhance them a little bit later. These don't have to be perfect. It's just kind of adding the suggestion of water behind my sand. It's nothing that's rocket science or that you have to do any blending on. Just kind of scribble it over there. And then I took this entire thing and ran it through my die cut machine using a stitched rectangle die so that I would have that stitching detail around all of my pieces here. So in order to add like a little sand effect to this, I'm just taking another Copic marker in a brown shade and just kind of adding some dots to my little mound. And I'm going to add this mound onto my card front using some foam adhesive to give it a little bit of dimension and kind of make it feel like it's more in front of the water. And I'm going to start adding my stamped and colored images. So my first way to step up stamped and colored images is to add them on using some dimension like foam adhesive. This is a really simple way to kind of add some depth and dimension to your cards. And I really like to add things on at different depths. So you'll see my sandcastle sits behind my gal. So some of my pieces I'll add on using regular tape runner adhesive and some of them with foam adhesive, sometimes 2 layers of foam adhesive to add even more depth. And another way to step up your stamped and colored images is to add them on using an action wobble. Now the action wobbles are fun because not only do they add dimension, but they add an interactive element to your card. So you saw me add that sun on with my action wobble there. And when the recipient opens this and pulls it out of the envelope, that sun's gonna kind of move and shake about and kind of just add a little something fun. I kind of find these action wobbles really addicting. Once I add these images onto my card using them, I tend to play with them a lot so I don't get as much done, but it is a great way to add a little something extra to those stamped and colored images. Now you can see I've brought in a whole lot of other things here. I've finished off putting together all of my cards. I've stamped and embossed those sentiments onto the various cards, and now I'm going to start embellishing them. So that brings me to my third way to step up your colored images, and that's by adding some pen details with like a white gel pen or a white paint pen. I'm using a paint pen today. This is the Ranger Dilutions paint pen, and I just added some polka dots to her top. And my fourth way to step up stamped and colored images is to use some glitter glues like Stickles or these Nuvo glitter drops. You can see I'm just kind of adding some blue squiggles here in the background. And that's just a fun way to kind of dress up the little water that I have in the background. These Nuvo drops do dry with a little bit of dimension and of course that glittery sparkle in there. You can see I'm adding some of the honey gold Nuvo drops onto my sand to make that sparkle, and then I'm using my finger to kind of smear it around so that it doesn't have a whole lot of dimension, but it just leaves that sparkle behind. Now, if you don't want the dimension, but you just want the glitter, you can also use Stickles. And I think that's a great way to add a little bit of sparkle, but it doesn't leave that glossy dimension behind. So speaking of glossy, we have our fifth way to add a little something extra to your stamped and colored images, and that's glossy accents. This is a great adhesive, but it's also a great embellishment. You can see I'm adding it to the lenses of the sunglasses here to make them look like they are real glass. I added it to the lid of my cup there to make that look like it was a real plastic lid on my little frozen Frappuccino coffee thing that's in her hand. And then my sixth way to add a little something extra is to use epoxy dots or enamel dots. Now I've added a large epoxy dot over the top of the sun. I added a layer of Stickles and then I added the epoxy dot over that, and that's just going to finish that off with some sparkle, some instant dimension. You don't have to let this dry like you do like the glossy accent. So this is instant. You can't mess it up. You can't stick your hand in it on accident. So I kind of like it for those, but they're only like available in certain shapes. Now my final way to add a little something extra, and you saw me trace around those clouds there, is to use some sparkle pens. I'm using the Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen here to trace around my clouds and add a little bit of shimmer, but you could also use the Spectrum Noir clear glitter overlay or any other that you may have. So that finishes off my card projects for today. You can see I created 4 different cards. All of them have these stamped and die cut and colored images, but they all have these little accents that just make them super special. They all have a little bit of dimension, some sparkle, some shine, and I just love the little touches like this that just totally finish off a handmade card. Now you can see on this little unicorn, I actually added a little bit of gold Stickles to the horn to make it nice and sparkly. And you can see I have that shiny, shimmery sand and the shiny, shimmery waves in the background, as well as that nice, sparkly and dimensional sun. On the sunglasses, you'll see all that glossy accents, which just really makes a really fun embellishment. Now, as always, I'll have links to the featured supplies in the description at YouTube, but be sure you head on over to my blog because I'll have a complete list of supplies over there. I'll list out all the Copic colors that I used. I'll have all of the 7 ways to add a little something extra to these stamped and colored images listed out for you there. And I also have some information on a giveaway. This video is a part of the July release blog hop for Pretty Pink Posh, so there'll be lots of prizes, inspiration, and so much fun over there, so be sure you head on over there and check it out. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed these projects and these ways to step up your colored images. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of my card making video tutorials. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.